A slightly refined research question might be, what affordances might CEMIs offer to deliver an alternative sonic manifestation of the aspirations of the proto-spectralist movement? To answer this, I created a conceptual methodological approach to deliver an artistic research artifact inspired by the work of Olivier Messiaen, but moving in a quite different trajectory. Just pause the video if you'd like to read it. In the spirit of the call, it drew from two instruments in the Townshend collection, the ARP 2500 modular synthesizer from 1970 and the Johannes Symphonica D47 organ from 50 years later. The organ was used to first form a bed of improvisations with a slightly pastiche quality, and the synth was later exploited to attempt to extend the genre.
There are several contexts for the current project. Two in particular were my book, Olivier Messiaen, A Critical Biography, which came out this year, and a CD that was done with Justin, with Andy Visser and Anna McCready, which is called Les Ombres du Fantôme. Messiaen was particularly interested in birdsong, and his music from the 1950s connects the earthly world of human beings with the celestial world of angels and of God. Messiaen taught a group of composers from 1969 to 1972 that became known as the École Spectrale in France. This group of composers, partly reaction to the hegemony of Boulez and to serialism, started to think about the resonance of the harmonics of the triad. And this is why this music became known as spectral music. Although verisimilitude was very, very important for Messiaen, one hears Messiaen's birds in a way that one would not hear them in a forest. One of the features of Florentz's music, for instance, is that birds communicate with each other. So one of the things we wanted to do in this piece was to give the sense of birds flying overhead and there being a relationship with a listener on the ground. So there are birds at different levels and communicating with each other in different ways.
In the first of 3 recording sessions, several organ improvisations were captured, some conventionally, but others involved a duet. Robert responding to Charlie, providing his own live-mapped parameter improvisation of CEMI effects processing in real time.
I like those After Effects sounds. The way in which the sound becomes more intense and then fades off.
I have contributed synth patching and sound design layers to this piece, using convolution and other sound processing techniques. This was used as a bed for the organ recording, which also received further post-processing.
Charlie retrospectively provided several layers of CEMI-processed Johannes, and I then created a layered collage from all the parts. The second session captured several layers of ARP performance, where we responded to the collage using a projection of a lyrebird spectrogram to loosely guide musical gestures.
I created patches responding to Justin and Robert's prompts. The ARP has a unique modulation system which is truly flexible.
Yeah, something that has that.
So you can glide up to that.
I only scratched the surface of the main block of the instrument. There was many other modules left to discover.
For the third session, I produced a hybrid collage of the previous 2 sessions for Anna to respond to. I recorded a series of Anna's vocal improvisations, each one with different approaches.
Listening to you here, I've got an inclination to hear the spoken poetry but whispered.
Well, do you want me to just whisper it and then you can play around with it and see?
Okay, let's do a whisper first.
For this project, I used 2 sketches, both found amongst the Messiaen collection at the Fondation Messiaen in the Bibliothèque Nationale. One of them was a sketch of the Uguzu bird, which Messiaen uses in the Set Hakai, and the other one was of the oiseleur, the lyrebird, found in Sherbrooke Forest, which is just outside Melbourne. I used the profile of these sketches, the profile of the birds, and improvised on the melodic and rhythmic profile of these birds to make some of the music in this soundscape.
Ground Course was a pedagogical system developed by the visionary educator Roy Ascott, whom Pete Townshend attributes with fueling his creativity when he studied here in the early 1960s. It was so called because it involves relearning everything from the ground up. In the spirit of its unlearning through disorientation, Charlie and I modulated parameters on the ARP 2500, whilst Robert simultaneously improvised at the keyboard with sound that literally changed under his fingertips.
The serendipity of the ground course work provided a form of improvised framework that acted as a set of asymmetrical rhythmic markers that could be improvised with. These markers were a little bit like the permutation symétrique idea in Messiaen's music, where asymmetrical rhythms provide markers within which birdsong can occur. And Messiaen calls this idea minting, or le Moyen Âge. That's a very nice harmonic background against which the birds can play. It's kind of static, and you can create rhythmic pulses that delineate the temporal organisation. Well, I mean, even according to that. The text sung by the soprano in this piece uses a text by Messiaen's mother, L'âme en bourgeon, the burgeoning soul. Messiaen took this text as being very, very important, as being a form of predestination for his own métier. I think of the soprano as being a kind of quilting point, and this really has a background in pieces like Luciano Berio's Visage from 1961.
I was struck by the contrast between the human element of the recording and the electronic noises that I was responding to. And I had an idea that the world that Messiaen had initiated from a very human perspective had been, as it were, transformed into a metallic and dehumanized space.
I quite like the reverberation sound in the sense that it sounds like a distant memory coming along the corridor of time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I think immediately, because you've got that slightly kind of almost plain song-like phrasing, sort of always sort of sitting on one note quite a lot.
Exactly.
It sort of asks for the sound of monks.
Yeah,
ways,
exactly. Yeah, which Gregorian chant, of course, is hugely important to Messiaen. But a Gregorian soul.
As a PhD student, I'm compelled to integrate my research involves using my high-resolution XY controllers. The cascading replicated delay, which feedbacks into diffusion, is really useful for pieces that don't have a defined rhythmic structure.
I now had a huge palette of sonic materials which I curated and massively edited down into a structure, recomposing, producing and binaurally mixing in Dolby Atmos simultaneously.
This is left front. This is right front. This is center. This is left surround. This is right surround. This is left rear. This is right rear. This is front left height. This is front right height. This is rear left height. This is rear right height.
avec ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Voici tout l'Orient et la fenêtre. Voici tout l'Orient qui chante dans mon être, avec ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Avec ses oiseaux bleus. Ce carré de clarté là-bas. Ce carré de clarté là-bas. C'est la fenêtre. C'est la fenêtre. Où le soleil acier s'englobe de rayons. Où le soleil acier s'englobe de rayons. C'est tout l'Orient qui chante de mon être, avec ses oiseaux, avec ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Carré de clarté là-bas, c'est la fenêtre. Acier son globe de rayons. Où le soleil assied son globe de rayons. Avec ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Voici tout l'Orient qui chante dans mon être. Voici tout l'Orient qui chante dans mon être. Ses oiseaux bleus, avec ses papillons. Le soleil assied son globe de rayons, avec ses papillons. Ce
In Messiaen's religious aesthetics, he inverts the somewhat negative aesthetics of modernity. So he makes dissonance into a medium of praise. In the same sense, in this project, we were able to take the secular associations with synthesizers, with electronica, with pop music, and to invert these, to make these things speak in a natural, ecological, and religious context.
So, we have deployed numerous CEMI affordances to go beyond the original proto-spectral acoustic instrument timbral repertoire. The ability to exert dynamic control over parameters such as envelopes, LFOs and portamento allowed human modulator operators to react to the keyboard player as an ensemble, whilst all were conducted by the spectrogram.
One of the spectral precedents that was important for me in this piece was a moment about 11 minutes into Gérard Griset's Partiel from 1975, in which birds respond to each other over a background of harmonics. And the synthesizers in the Townshend collection here can be thought of as reimagining the orchestral background and reimagining that foreground, but using these different means. The ARP was particularly useful because it offered the possibility of making sounds that were, in a way, deracinated, that gives the particularly chirpy, bird-like sound that is possible with this synthesizer, but not really possible with orchestral instruments, like the piccolo, for instance.
Using the Townshend ARP 2500 was serendipitous, since its release was commensurate with the time of the École Spectrale. It therefore offered the opportunity to make sounds, especially birdsong, which could not previously have been made in a manner that still holds relevance today.